Are you wise or foolish? Have you ever found yourself wondering what truly defines wisdom? It's not about intelligence, formal education, or the number of books you've read. True wisdom is reflected in how you live, how you think, and how you treat others. According to Billy Graham's teachings, foolishness isn't just a lack of knowledge, it's a failure to align your life with faith, integrity, and purpose. Today we're diving into a topic that might make you pause for self-reflection: 6 key signs of a misguided woman. Before you jump to conclusions, let me clarify, this isn't about judging or labeling. Billy Graham's philosophy wasn't about condemning others, but rather encouraging personal growth, faith, and self-examination. When we discuss these 6 signs, we're not simply identifying flaws in others, we're holding up a mirror to reflect on our own actions, thoughts, and lives. After all, wisdom is a lifelong journey, not a final destination. No one is perfect, not you, not me. The goal here isn't perfection, but progress. Why look to Billy Graham's teachings? His message was one of hope, discipline, and unwavering faith. He spoke about mastering one's mindset, focusing on what truly matters, and living a life anchored in spiritual principles. Graham dedicated his life to guiding people through the challenges of the world with faith, strength, and moral clarity. His teachings remain just as relevant today as they were decades ago. So, how does his wisdom help us recognize foolishness? More importantly, how can we apply these insights to our daily lives? If you're curious, keep reading. We're about to explore 6 signs of misguided thinking. Not to judge, but to learn, grow, and even find some humor along the way. Let's begin with the first sign, and trust me, this is one you'll want to hear. The first sign is prioritizing appearance over character. Imagine meeting someone who always appears flawless, perfectly styled, immaculately dressed, with an Instagram feed that looks like a curated gallery. At first glance, they exude confidence and success, but upon closer examination, you realize there's little depth beneath the surface. Their energy is entirely focused on outward appearances rather than personal growth. According to Billy Graham, this obsession with appearance is misguided. Why? Because true value lies not in looks, but in character, faith, and kindness. Billy Graham often emphasized that it's our inner qualities that define us, not our external appearance. The Bible reminds us that beauty fades, but wisdom, integrity, and kindness endure. There's nothing wrong with taking pride in your appearance. Self-respect and confidence are important. However, when physical beauty becomes the foundation of self-worth, it leads to insecurity. What happens when beauty fades? What happens when someone else is deemed more attractive? If your identity is rooted in something so fleeting, you will always be chasing validation. Instead, shift your focus to inner beauty. Reflect on your values. Are you living with integrity? Are you treating others with kindness? Are you growing into the person God intended you to be? True beauty is found in the heart and soul, not in a mirror or a social media post. The second sign is ignoring self-responsibility. This one might be uncomfortable to confront because, let's be honest, taking responsibility isn't always easy. However, according to Billy Graham, personal accountability is essential for a meaningful life. Have you ever met someone who always has an excuse for everything that goes wrong? Their problems are never their fault. It's always their job, their parents, their partner, or just bad luck. While life can certainly be unfair, dwelling on external circumstances is a sign of misplaced focus. Billy Graham often spoke about personal accountability as a cornerstone of faith. He taught that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. Blaming others doesn't just make you look immature, it also keeps you stuck. When you refuse to take responsibility, you give away your power to change, grow, and improve. Consider your career, for example. Maybe your boss is difficult, the job market is tough, or opportunities seem scarce. But what can you control? Are you improving your skills? Are you showing up with a positive attitude? Or are you spending all your time complaining, waiting for someone else to fix your problems? Billy Graham would remind us that progress starts with accountability. The moment you take responsibility for your life, even the difficult parts, you reclaim your power. Blaming others might feel satisfying in the moment, but in the long run, it's a trap. It prevents you from stepping into your full potential. Graham often quoted the Bible's wisdom on perseverance and courage, urging people to face challenges head-on rather than avoiding them. You are capable of more than you realize, but only if you're willing to own your actions and decisions. So, how can you apply this wisdom to your own life? Start by asking yourself, am I taking full responsibility for my choices? Am I actively working to become a better person, or am I making excuses? Growth begins the moment you stop shifting blame and start embracing personal accountability. These are just 2 of the 6 signs we'll be exploring. Each one offers a chance for reflection, growth, and transformation. The goal isn't to point fingers or dwell on past mistakes. Instead, it's about recognizing areas where we can improve and taking steps to live with greater wisdom, faith, and purpose. Remember, true wisdom isn't about never making mistakes. It's about learning from them. By aligning our lives with faith and integrity, we can move forward with confidence, knowing we are on the path to true wisdom. Ask yourself some tough questions. Am I blaming others for my problems? What can I do differently to improve my situation? Am I willing to take ownership of my actions, even when it's uncomfortable? The Stoics believe that responsibility isn't just about fixing what's wrong. It's about empowering yourself to create a better future. So, the next time you're tempted to point fingers or make excuses, stop and remind yourself, this is my life. How I respond is up to me. Taking responsibility may not always be easy, but it's one of the most powerful steps you can take toward wisdom and growth. Sign 3, overvaluing others' opinions. Let's move on to the 3rd sign of foolishness according to Stoic wisdom, overvaluing others' opinions. This one hits hard in today's world, doesn't it? Social media has made it incredibly easy to fall into the trap of caring too much about what others think. How many likes did your post get? Who's watching your stories? What will people say about your choices? These questions creep into our minds, sometimes without us even realizing it. But here's the truth. Living for the approval of others is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. The Stoics were firm about this. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and a Stoic giant, said it best. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Think about that for a second. You love yourself more than anyone else, right? You're with yourself 24/7 through every success and every failure, yet somehow the opinions of people who don't live your life, who might not even know you well, carry so much weight. Why is that? The Stoics believe that constantly seeking validation from others is a sign of foolishness because it pulls you away from your own path. When you live for other people's opinions, you hand over control of your happiness, your decisions, and your self-worth. Instead of asking, what do I want? What aligns with my values? You start asking, what will they think? What will make me look good? And the problem with that mindset, it's impossible to please everyone. No matter what you do, someone will always criticize you. The Stoics taught that wisdom comes from living in alignment with your own values, not someone else's expectations. They encouraged us to focus on what we can control. And guess what? You can't control what other people think of you. You can only control how you think about yourself. Epictetus put it simply, if you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. If you need a witness, be your own. Does this mean you should ignore everyone's opinions entirely? Not at all. The Stoics would advise listening to feedback with an open mind, but not letting it define you. There's a big difference between constructive feedback that helps you grow and toxic validation that keeps you trapped. Here's a practical takeaway. The next time you find yourself worrying about what others think, Pause and ask yourself, why do their opinions matter to me? Am I living in alignment with my values? If no one else were watching, would I still make the same decision? By shifting your focus from external validation to internal integrity, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of people-pleasing. Remember, wisdom isn't about being liked by everyone. It's about staying true to who you are. The Stoics would remind you that your worth isn't up for debate. It's something you define for yourself. Sign 4, emotional instability and overreaction. Now, let's move on to the 4th sign of foolishness, and this one is a big one: emotional instability and overreaction. Imagine this. You're having a conversation with someone, and suddenly a small disagreement turns into a full-blown argument. Voices are raised, tempers flare, and before you know it, things spiral completely out of control. Or maybe you've seen someone let a minor inconvenience, like being stuck in traffic, ruin their entire day. Sound familiar? According to Stoic wisdom, allowing your emotions to control you is a sign of foolishness. The Stoics believed emotions are natural, but overreacting to them or letting them dictate your actions is a failure to live rationally. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: a man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is. In other words, much of our suffering doesn't come from the situation itself, but from how we choose to react to it. Now, don't get me wrong, Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. The Stoics understood that emotions are a natural part of being human. But they also believed that wisdom lies in how you respond to those emotions. Instead of reacting impulsively, they taught us to pause, reflect, and choose a response that aligns with reason and virtue. Why does emotional instability matter so much? Because it clouds your judgment. When you let anger, fear, or frustration take over, you're more likely to make decisions you regret, saying things you don't mean, hurting people you care about, or escalating situations unnecessarily. Worse, emotional overreaction creates a ripple effect, damaging your relationships and reputation. Epictetus put it beautifully: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This is one of the core teachings of Stoicism. You can't control everything that happens in life, but you can control your response. And when you master your response, you master your life. So how can you practice emotional stability? Here are a few Stoic-inspired strategies. Pause before reacting. When emotions start bubbling up, take a deep breath. Give yourself a moment to process before responding. Reframe the situation. Ask yourself, is this really worth getting upset over? Most of the time, the answer is no. Focus on what you can control. If the situation is out of your hands, don't waste energy on it. Shift your focus to what you can influence: your mindset, actions, and perspective. Let's be honest. We all lose our cool sometimes. It's human. But the key is to catch yourself, reflect, and try to do better next time. Remember, calmness is a superpower. When you stay grounded in the face of chaos, you not only protect your peace, but also inspire others to do the same. So the next time you're tempted to overreact, think of the Stoics. Ask yourself, am I letting my emotions control me, or am I in control of my emotions? Because wisdom isn't about never feeling, it's about choosing how to act, even when emotions run high. Sign 5, materialism and greed. Now, let's move on to the 5th sign of foolishness: materialism and greed. Picture someone obsessed with acquiring more money, more possessions, more status symbols. They measure success not by the quality of their character or the happiness in their life, but by the number of zeros in their bank account or the designer labels in their closet. Sound familiar? The Stoics had a lot to say about this, and spoiler alert, it's not flattering. They believe that an obsession with material wealth is a clear sign of foolishness. Why? Because material things are temporary, external, and ultimately beyond our control. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." In other words, the more you chase material things, the more enslaved you become to them. You'll always want more, never be satisfied, and constantly look for the next thing to fill that emptiness inside. Think about it. How many people seem to have it all on the surface? Money, cars, a big house, yet they're completely miserable. That's because materialism is a trap. It distracts you from what truly matters: your relationships, your purpose, and your inner peace. The Stoics taught that true wealth isn't about what you own. It's about being content with what you already have. Possessions aren't the only concern. It's also about the constant need for external validation. Maybe you're not fixated on owning luxury goods, but you find yourself chasing status or recognition. You think, if I just get that promotion, earn that degree, or buy that one thing, then I'll finally feel fulfilled. The Stoics, however, would warn that this mindset leads nowhere. True fulfillment comes from within, not from anything external. So how do you break free from materialism and greed? The Stoics practice something called voluntary discomfort, intentionally foregoing luxuries and at times even basic comforts like food, warmth, or shelter. This reminded them that they didn't need excess to survive or thrive. It was a way to cultivate gratitude and focus on what truly matters. While you don't have to take such extreme measures, you can adopt a similar perspective. Ask yourself, what am I grateful for right now? Do I genuinely need this, or am I trying to fill an emotional void? Am I living in alignment with my values, or am I chasing things that won't bring lasting happiness? The Stoics believe that simplicity is freedom. When you stop tying your happiness to material possessions, you free yourself from the endless cycle of desire, pursuit, and dissatisfaction. The best part? You begin to focus on what truly matters: your personal growth, your relationships, and the legacy you leave behind. Sign 6, avoiding self-reflection and growth. Finally, let's discuss what might be the most crucial sign of all: avoiding self-reflection and personal growth. Let's be honest, this one is difficult to admit. No one enjoys confronting their own flaws. It's far easier to blame others, distract ourselves with entertainment, or pretend that everything is fine. But according to the Stoics, avoiding self-reflection is one of the greatest barriers to wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, practiced a powerful nightly routine, reflecting on his actions, thoughts, and decisions from the day. He would ask himself, what did I do well? What could I have done better? Where did I fall short of my values? This daily self-examination wasn't about self-criticism, it was about growth. The Stoics believed that wisdom comes from constantly evaluating yourself, learning from mistakes, and striving to be better. When you neglect self-reflection, you remain stagnant, repeating the same mistakes and patterns while wondering why nothing changes. It's like being stuck in quicksand. You may be moving, but you're not going anywhere. Over time, this lack of growth breeds frustration, resentment, and regret. The Stoics argue that self-reflection is the foundation of a virtuous life. It helps you align your actions with your values, recognize when you've strayed, and correct your course. Most importantly, it allows you to become the best version of yourself, not for others, but for your own fulfillment. So how can you cultivate self-reflection? Here are a few Stoic-inspired practices. Journaling. Spend a few minutes each day writing about your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Ask yourself, what went well today? What could I improve? Mindful check-ins. Pause throughout the day to assess whether your actions align with your values. Seeking feedback. Sometimes we can't recognize our own blind spots. Ask trusted friends or mentors for honest feedback and receive it with an open mind. Remember, self-reflection isn't about striving for perfection, it's about progress. The Stoics understood that growth is a lifelong journey, and true transformation begins when you're willing to look inward, even when it's uncomfortable. So there you have it, the 6 signs of a foolish mindset, according to Stoic wisdom. Prioritizing appearance over character, neglecting personal responsibility, overvaluing others' opinions, emotional instability, materialism and greed, and avoiding self-reflection and growth. But here's the key takeaway. This isn't about labeling or judging others. It's about recognizing where we all have room to grow. The Stoics believed that wisdom is a lifelong pursuit, not a fixed destination. The good news? We all have the ability to cultivate it. It begins with self-awareness, acknowledging our shortcomings without self-condemnation. Then it takes courage to challenge old habits, let go of what no longer serves us, and embrace a life guided by virtue, reason, and purpose. Now let me leave you with this question. Which of these 6 signs resonates with you the most? Is there an area of your life where applying Stoic wisdom could lead to positive change? Remember, even the smallest step toward growth is still a step in the right direction. And if this video gave you something to reflect on, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little Stoic inspiration today.